Greetings! This is Top Tier Tips. Greetings everyone, Force Nature here of Top Tier Tips, and I'm back with another guide. This time we're looking at DOA's resident Taekwondo expert, who's just simply named Rig, because he works on an oil rig. Yeah, I mean, what else is there to say about him? Anything else that I really say about him, honestly, will probably be a story spoiler, but I will let you know that the guy's just not simply a simple oil rig worker. And he's got a lot of fancy crap written on his body. But anyways, I also want to give a little shout out here to Team Ninja with these awesome Halloween costumes here. Or I should be giving a shout out to the DOA fans for designing these outfits. Right here we have Rig dressed as Thug, or I think that's what it's called, Thug Rig, and we have Ayani here, who was selected as this year's pirate. Because last year she was what, a witch or something like that, and this year she's a pirate. But yeah, just going back on to Rig right now. From a gameplay standpoint, Rig is essentially a rushdown, frame advantage pressure character. So generally, an objective you want to do with Rig is essentially try and find some way to put the opponent on the defensive and try and keep him on the defensive as much as possible. So what that means is trying to just basically try and get your offense started with an attack that can lead to like a frame trap or a situation where Rig is basically at frame advantage or like neutral. The most common way is going into is doing attacks that lead into his stances, such as his bend and stance. Like I can show you like a few examples right now, like stuff like his K, 4K, 1K for instance, and a bunch of other moves can lead into his bend and stance, which essentially is his primary stance. But I will let you know that Rig is he's a pretty complex character. I mean, generally I find in fighting games, Taekwondo characters usually do tend to have pretty prolific movesets, and Rig is no exception. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in terms of techniques that you really have to try and familiarize yourself with. So in a moment we'll end up taking a look at his move list that I heavily recommend looking at. But before I go on, I will throw out a little disclaimer that if I end up saying anything in this guide that you're unfamiliar with, or you make you go like, then be sure to just check out my other guides to see if you can find any answers to your queries. But anyways, let's end up taking a look at the command list now. And just for fun, I will also let you know that Rig is free step. This changes stance, so you could do a little Rig shuffle for fun, control or whatever. Oh yeah, there's another thing also I forgot to mention with regards to Rig. He's Canadian, so that automatically boosts his awesomeness level by at least like 9,000 points. Anyways, here we are in the command training. As you can see near the top, Rig has about 113 moves. That's a little above average. The main thing with Rig though is thanks to his two main stances. The first one I showed was the bend-in stance, and the other one being the turn cut stance. Rig has he has a lot of techniques that you have to kind of like take account for. So a main thing I do want you to look out for when you're like going through his command list, where you're just going through like the moves or whatever, is try and take note of moves that like go into different stances. The most common one will be his moves that like go into like the bend-in stance and stuff like that. But there are also stuff that can like go into like his turn cut stance, for instance. I can show an example there, like just simply like KK for instance, stuff like that can end up going into his turn cut stance, which has its own like move list to it. So once you do get used to the moves that end up leading into the different stances, then you can kind of like learn to kind of flow with them a little better. But in the command training, generally, like with most characters, just honestly just get used to his strength and stuff like that. Anyways, let's end up going on to his close range game. All right, let's take a look at what Rig's packing in close. And no, that's not an innuendo or anything like that. Alright, so right here I like to slap on the move details, as you can see right here, left side. Alright, so let's see, so Rig has a 10 frame jab, 13 frame K, as you can see right there, it's +3, and as I mentioned earlier, it goes into bend and stand, so as you can see, this will be a pretty key move. He has a 13 frame 6P, has like a follow-up and safe. His 2P right here is 13 frames. I think it's only, yeah, it's only neutral, so 0 on normal hit. Other moves also to take note is, I like his 4K, which can basically lead into bend and stance. It comes out in 14 frames, as you see. It's a +4 on normal hit. So if it does get blocked, you're at -2 for that one, but then under most circumstances you'll go for the follow-up unless the opponent tries to high crush under the high. Because I will give you a warning that a lot of his main like frame advantage moves or the kind of the faster ones that you'll use regularly tend to be highs, like the aforementioned K, or like stuff like 4KK right there gives you +1 into bend and stance. So generally what the opponent's going to do to try and get out of your potential bend and stance pressure is to try and high crush you, but we won't worry about that right now. I'll just say in close, as I probably mentioned right at the beginning, what you want to do with Rig is you just want to keep the opponent on the defensive. One of the best ways in keeping the opponent on the defensive is to enter bend and stance. So most common attacks you're going to be using to enter bend and stance will be moves like his K or his or his 4KK. Those are moves I do like. If you want a low, you have 1K, which is a follow-up, which is 1KK. I mean, yeah, if the opponent does manage to block this, then they can like duck under the high, but that's not really much worry, because if you're worried about the other potential moves that Rig can use to enter into bend and stance, you're not going to be necessarily crouching too much. Because I will also let you know, another thing is Rig actually possesses a 12 frame mid kick launcher right here. On normal hit it doesn't launch, it's just lift stun, but on counter hit or during stun it can do a launch for a combo. So if this ends up connecting on counter hit, it's going to be really dangerous, and at 12 frames that is quite fast, so that will outspeed most characters' attacks. Like Ayane's own 6P or 6K are both 13 frames, so this would end up beating them out on speed, and if it counter hits, then like I said earlier, you end up getting that launch. So this can be a good kind of interrupt or fast launcher with Rig. But going on in close, what I want you to do is basically go into bend and stance, because when you're in bend and stance, whether it ends up for most like attacks like the 4KK or the K, if it connects on normal hit or is blocked, you're at frame advantage. The most common thing you're going to do after this is you could just keep doing another K. So if you do KK, you'll stay at +1. So it means in order for the opponent to get out of this, like this move is coming out, it's coming out in 10 frames and from +3, so this will basically beat out anything. So in order for the opponent to beat that, they would have to either high crush you or sidestep. If you do anticipate a sidestep, the opponent can leave themselves open for Rig's bend and stance throw. See right here, this will leave you at +9. So with this, with the +9 frame advantage, you can basically just do whatever you want. You could even try and sneak in a guard break. This is his 7K right here. I mean, if it actually connects with the opponent and you charge it significantly, or you charge it up long enough, you can get like a free 3K launcher. So when the opponent is starting to respect your offense, then you could try and sneak in like slower moves. Like this move also key. Both these guarantee 3K. So yeah, so those are good tools to use when the when you have enough frame advantage over the opponent, or if they're overly like respecting you, like for instance. Like this one right here, remember though that see, as you can see, the P isn't an advantage, but it is slight negative, but it's still safe on block, where this one's a little slower to hold the K and you get the guard break, but those are both good tools to use. But the main thing which I want you to focus on is just keeping the opponent on the defensive. If they're just standing there blocking, then you can end up use the bend 2K, give them a low to worry about. You have bend stance 2H plus K there, so those are like a couple of other moves to worry about. But if you're outside of bend and stance, then here you got a 16 frame unseeable low. This is 2H plus K. This move right here is really freaking good. I mean, right here, unseeable low, plus 9 frame advantage. So this right here is a low at the opponent from neutral in close range, and if you have even the slightest advantage, they have to worry about. So right here, so you can end up complementing Rig's pressure game with lows. Like this one is just so freaking good. But in bend and stance, you got the low sweep, you got bend stance K. So right here, I mean, if you just want pokes to just annoy the opponent with, you have to use your high option. You can do bend stance 4K, you can keep going. You can even alternate these two just to annoy the hell out of the opponent. And when they're blocking, you get the throw. To make things even funkier for the opponent, if you end up doing this move I just did here, this is bend and stance forward K back. This here is a feint, and let's say if you've gotten the opponent far enough into like the stun threshold or anything, I don't really know an example right here, but basically let me see if I can just like show you right now what I mean. Like, alright, moving along, we're just going to be looking at Rig's guard break game, along with this well, I guess in his case, this frame advantage moves in general. Won't necessarily go over all of them, but just mainly some key ones. Alright, alright, let me just slap on the move details, my favorite box, some people may know. Right now, as you can tell, his most lucrative frame advantage move is his K. So this one, any chance you get to use this to enter bend and stance, I highly recommend it. There's also 4KK, you can even use, that's 6P 2KK, which is similar to like 1KK. These ones leave you at neutral, but because he's in bend and stance, you can use his 10 frame K, which will generally beat out everything but like 9 frame jabs if he's neutral. So that right there is also a good move. So be careful that the second hit can be crouched under if the first hit is blocked. But well, for other guard break moves, I did also tell you about 7K. I'll just let you know a little something about this move right here. If you can do it when the opponent's in a corner, because this one provides Rig with a lot of frame advantage. If you can end up getting a jab. You can end up getting like a jab follow up right away. So you can end up doing his jab strings and whatever while pressuring an opponent in a corner. And I will let you know that Rig's corner game can be pretty lucrative, but I'll just save that for his for the corner game section. All right, for other guard breaks from his bend and stance. He has his 4H plus K right there, gives him plus save. It is a 29 frame track and high, but yeah, if the opponent's respecting your offense and you can sneak it in and just keep the frame advantage game going. Out of his turn leg cut stance or his TLC stance, he's a track and guard break too. Right there, the TLC KH plus K. So that right there is a track and high. If the opponent ends up, for instance, getting smacked with it instead, it ends up blasting them across the room. And being a track and guard break, you can use this to basically thwart any sort of attempts to sidestep Rig, since when Rig's pressuring you, you're basically trying to do your opponents are trying to do two things. They're going to try and high crush you, or they're going to try and sidestep you. And yeah, if they have a 9-frame jab, they may try and interrupt you, but generally trying to interrupt Rig is usually highly not recommended. Because yeah, the opponent generally has to be smart to try and get out of Rig's pressure. As for some other kind of stuff, like let me just get a block in. I will let you know that if you don't charge up bend and stance 7k, then I will leave them at 0, which is nice. So whether you charge it or not, you'll be at worst you'll be at neutral, which is fine. If you want to try and sneak in, like I said earlier, like if these moves end up connecting, if you want to try and sneak in a sit down stun, there is also the P option, but of course as I end up mentioning earlier, it's -5 on block, which of course is completely safe. You can't get thrown or you don't have to worry about being punched, anything like that. But with Rig, what you want to try and do is try and find ways to try and keep the frame advantage going. So what you want to do is try and find ways to try and keep him at worst, usually neutral, when you're trying to get his bend and stance pressure going. Let's see, as for guard breaks, this one here, he has a bit of a ranged guard break, is 236k. Here, this right here ends up giving him +9 if the opponent gets if the opponent ends up getting smacked with it instead. Blast him across the room like bend and stance 4 HSK. But the main thing about this move is that you actually, for Rig, it might even be, depending on what you're going for, it might even be beneficial to have this move blocked, because now you're now in front of it, you're now right next to the opponent in close range at +9 frame advantage while in bending stance. So I mean, so if this move gets blocked, Rig is in complete control. I mean, unfortunately, you don't get the benefits of like it being unblockable like Jan Lee's, but sometimes being able to stay completely on the advantage over your opponent may be more beneficial than a relatively meaningless knockdown. All right, we're gonna take a look at Rig's 4-set game right now, which, as you can guess, complements his pressure game quite well. All right, so I'll just basically go through them right now. So I'll show you some. The most common one you're going to be using is his 1P right there. So other ones can include 2H+K, but unfortunately the range isn't as good as like with 1P. Some other ones you can use is bend and stance 2H+K. 7K is a good one. You can. It has a second hit two, even though only the first hit will connect. But in case if you're unsure if the first is going to connect, you do have a second one to follow up with. And you can also use 1H+K is a good one. So with the Rig right there, you have quite numerous options in terms of force text. I don't know if that's necessarily everyone, but that's still quite a bit of force text to work with, so you can get creative and see how you can kind of work with them. Alright, just gonna take a look at Rig's mid-range game right now. I will let you know that range isn't necessarily particularly Rig's friend. It's not that Rig can't fight at range, it's just that it completely does not play to his strengths and is not optimal at him at all to play a ranged or keep out footsie type of game. Like he does have some tools that you can use to keep people out, like his H+K right there can give you a nice lift stun to anyone that ends up running at you or something like that. But by and large, what you want to do with Rig is try and find a way to get in. The recommended move for getting, I'd say, is just 6-6P. This move right here is the definition of low risk, low reward. So the move's strength is that it's fully safe right there at -5. And if it connects, well, it can wall slam. But if it connects, it leaves the opponent at it leaves you at +5. And if it were to connect during stun or on counter hit, it does cause a knockdown, but Yeah, and I mean the move reaches pretty far also at around, well, around 2.13 or 2, well, it says 2.11 there, but it's normally 2.13 meters if I'm not mistaken, or 2.14 depending on if you're in open or closed stance. But yeah, it's a good go-to move. If you want an alternative move to this, like let's say something that maybe gives you a little bit more reward, if it hits you can try on 6K. And right there, yeah, as you can see, it can boot people out of windows or whatever you had. But in general, it provides you with a nice juicy plus 28 stun. With that, you can like follow up with like 3P for a lift stun, or you can also follow up with you can also follow up with a K for an alternative, so like stuff like that. But generally, what you want to do is try and chain deep stuns. So yeah, so if you want to like whiff punish the opponent, like, well, whiffing, then you got 6K right there to help you out. Another poke you can also use is his 6K K string, which if you hold back can go into his TLC or his turn leg cut stance. Right on. A normal hit, it leaves you slightly negative, but if it were to connect on counter hit, then you end up giving you a plus 27. And right there you can like chain a 3P, so here. I mean 6KK is also pretty good though, comes out in 13 frames, has pretty decent reach considering how fast it is, and it is quite good on counter hits, and it's a pretty abusable move, so so yeah, so right there is a few things you can do. If another thing you can also do if the opponent's snoozing, or if they're really afraid to like come in on you, then you can try and sneak in a 236K, which of course if they are paying attention to what you're doing or anything like that, then yes, you will get high crushed or crouched and punished for it, but yeah, you never know, you might end up catching someone snoozing. You'll feel like a complete badass when you actually whack someone with a with Rig Zone Dragon Kick. Okay, we're looking at Rick's throw game right now. Okay, I will say that overall Rick's throw game isn't really that impressive, though he does have at least a couple useful throws. Like, I'll just show you the standard throws right now. His 5-frame neutral throw, 40 damage, just switches sides. 7-frame punish throw does 45 damage, but does have the ability to wall slam right there. And his 10-frame throw is 52 damage on normal throw and leaves the opponent right there. But the main throw that you are going to be using with Rig to get most damage, or to try and to get most damage, or to like punish with holds or whatever, is using this throw. I mean, if you were to hit 6T on high counter, like, it would give you 78 right there, and as you can see, it also can wall slam too for a little additional damage. But overall though, what you're gonna want to do is his launcher throw. Even though you don't really get much additional damage due to high counter, but the kind of combos you can do from it are definitely pretty devastating. Like, check this out. Alright, so right there I just showed you a few of the throw combos that you can do with Rick. The first two ones are designed for open space. I will let you know the second combo is a little harder than the first. A little tip is just to do like a really small like micro dash, or even like a step forward before you end up doing the K, then continue on with the rest of the inputs. I will include the inputs for these throw combos down in the info down below. Alright, the third combo is what you do with Rick in front of a wall. Similar to the other two combos, the timing can seem a little tired on them, so you might have to practice them a bit. And as you could guess, Rick's throw can also hit a ceiling. So I showed you an example with the combo throw there. After the Rick's throw hits a ceiling, 1P does, or not 1P, 7P becomes guaranteed, which always allows for a guaranteed 3K. Like 1P in general actually is a good move. So if the opponent ends up like whiffing a hold or something, like this is a nice delayed move to punish holds. And if the opponent like whiffs something in front of you that has like massive recovery, although I mean this move's kind of slow, then if you can hit him with this, you always get your free launch. So yeah, so 7P is basically just like bend and stance P, and yeah, it's a really good move for Rig. But also you also have to get to keep in mind that Rig's ceiling throw, Rig's 12 frame throw becomes incredibly dangerous and a huge threat for the opponent under ceiling stages. Alright, we're going to take a look at Rig's hold game right now. Overall, his hold game is not really that impressive. His high hold is like his high punch, high kick, or low punch, low kick holds just do around, I think, 52 damage on normal hits, so they're not really too spectacular or anything like that. The ones that do stand out a little bit to me would be his mid punch hold. Like right there, it deals 52 damage and can knock back. It does have the ability to slam into a wall and see if I can show off. Like right there, see for an extra 10 damage. But an interesting hold that he does have is his mid kick hold. It does light damage, but it leaves you at plus 7. So you can kind of enforce a bit of a mix-up after. And neat thing is that it actually gives you enough, if you do it fast enough, you actually get enough frame advantage to get a jab, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, you can get a free jab. However, I will note that the opponent does have a way to get out of it. Like as if they crouch, but of course, if you do end up suspecting that they're gonna crouch, then you can just hit them with 8K. So you do get a little bit of a mix-up to work with there. Alright, we're gonna take a look at Rig at a wall. Alright, I'll just say straight up, the number one move you're gonna be using for slam the opponent is 6-6P. As I mentioned earlier, it's frame advantage on hit, it's safe on blocks, and it comes out in 14 frames, so you can slam an opponent very easily. If you want alternatives, like 6-6K, and on counter hit, 3K, which comes out in 16 frames, and H plus K, which comes out in 18 frames. So those are other moves you can use to wall slam. After a wall slam, the combo I recommend is PPK for KKK. So just so right there. Another tip I'll also give is, you remember how I told you about don't really need this one. How I told you about these feints. Rig's reset game is particularly dangerous at a wall, and also don't forget also that you do also have, this is also where your plus 12 guard break is really dangerous. So, but if you can utilize his feints into his reset throw. And yeah, Rig is I mean, this is actually probably the most dangerous place for Rig to be, and the worst situation for his opponent to be is when Rig has his opponents to the wall, so that this reset throw just becomes that much huger of a threat for the opponent. Alright, that's it for now. Alright, I'm just gonna tell you a few things to practice with Rig. The recommended things to practice is getting down the timings on his throw combos. The other thing that also practice is just getting used to the ways how his strings flows, and basically just trying to completely familiarize yourself with all the different ways to enter both the bend-in stance and turn leg cut stance. A little tip to help you out is that you can put on the move list for him, and basically with all this different streams he has, you can end up getting a bit of an idea of when you can end up entering different stances. For instance, like when you see like with the top one, punch back, that one's usually, or back direction is most commonly used with rig to indicate when you're going to be entering into a turn leg cut stance. I mean, yeah, it's not always like that, but commonly you'll see that. Unfortunately for bending stance, there aren't really any sort of hints on the, you can use the right stick here to scroll. There isn't really any hints to know if you can enter into bending stance. You'll just unfortunately have to discover it for yourself as you end up going through all 113 plus of his moves. Another also little tip I'll give you: Rig's high crush of choice is his 1P. Does have a follow-up in 1 PP, so this move here, it's not really the fastest move. Like 20 frames, it's a little slow, and it's -3 on normal hit, though it does have a follow-up, but yeah, I mean that is one of Rig's weaknesses, is that his crush game isn't really that good. I mean, for weaknesses in general, Rig's weaknesses is that he's vulnerable to high crushes, and his weakness is that on defense, his crush game isn't really that good. So generally with Rig, you don't really want to play defensively at all. And also, as mentioned earlier, that you usually don't want to be playing at range with Rig, but if the opponent is doing a good job of pressuring, then sometimes you have to try and back off and like take a bit of a breather, then try and get in again with like 6 XP or 6 KK or whatever. Well, but yeah, that is it for now. So if you have any more questions about anything from this guide or anything like DOA related or whatever, then feel free to contact Force of Nature on freestepdodge.com. You can also contact me on my YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. And also feel free to check out my other guides, including like character guides, anti-character guides, like the whole kitchen sink and whatever. And also even my advanced guides if you just want to get a bit more of a background on this awesome game that is Dead or Alive 5 Last Round. And yeah, I'll let you ogle these awesome costumes just a little bit more. But yeah, that is it for now. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time on Top Tier Tips.